Hello, good evening. It is Thursday, April 21st, 2026. The City Council here is gathered in another workshop setting on our budget. You'll notice that we have two empty seats around the bench or around the tables, but Councilors Gary Allen and Mishu are joining us remotely via Zoom, so they'll be full participants in our meeting tonight. It shows up on our schedule of workshop events as a wrap-up meeting. We'll see if we're able to wrap up tonight or not. I know that individually, all of us have been considering the budget and the ramifications of revenues and expenditures and revaluation and all that sort of thing. But this is really, besides the questioning that we've been able to do of staff and the manager, is really the first time that we have an opportunity to really kind of hash it out amongst ourselves. So before we get to that, I'm going to ask the city manager to offer a few remarks, kind of set the table for us about where we are today.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple of housekeeping items. In front of you, councilors, you'll see some more information based upon some of the follow-ups that were sent over last week. One of them, what number of season passes versus individual passes at Bicentennial, some information on that, along with busiest times at Lithgow Library. There's a memo on that, and a memo also from Development Services on growth. So the two outstanding items that I still have to get is Old Fort Western, the income they take in visitors versus the amount that goes towards the part-time folks, or the people who work there that aren't covered by the city budget, along with a memo with the expenditures in childcare based upon Bucher, that what their use of the building is, so we could kind of figure out if there was a service fee involved with that. So two more items coming at you. But to date, that's getting all the information back to you in that packet of information, if you will. With that being said, we have, just to kind of recap where we're at, gone through an extensive budget process to this date, and we have all already realized, as you all know, a savings between several items of about $251,291. So the tax rate sheet that will be updated for you has the municipal budget reduced to $49,111,707, or from a 5.4 to a 4.9% increase in expenditures, along with a reduction in the county tax. That has also reduced to $3,502,184, which went from 11 to 10%. So there's been some slight reductions in that, with the overall expenditures up 7%. For our tax sheet as you go into the wrap-up. So also included in your packets today, as I've listed a number of the existing at the top savings already achieved, which I just indicated, but some other revenues I've found, along with some expenditure reductions further, and I've basically listed those out in categories, as you can see from the group there, that has some, additional reductions in some of our costs, code enforcement equipment, parking garage, and a list of those, along with delay in hirings and layoffs, what would come in savings of that, and then some further deeper impacts overall as well. So that's listed out for you to kind of give you an idea as you go through what we would be looking at, because in the end, what obviously I need to be directed towards is I'm really looking to get to a number. And the school department superintendent's here as well. He's indicated to me, as I said in my email to you, he would certainly like to work with you in any of, the final numbers that we can get to, so we can go back and do the reductions or wherever we land on this, and we can put a budget together, and that way, for the appropriation resolve and that type of thing. So the superintendent is here. If you have any questions of him, they're in observation mode, obviously, to your deliberations, but are here as a resource along with city staff as well. Our assessor is here as well. She's found a couple of items of interest, a program out of Auburn. They use it in a couple other locations in the state too, but there's a relatively new program through a adoption of a city ordinance that we could, at the local level, actually reduce property taxes of up to $1,000 for folks of the most limited income with an age, I believe it's over 65 or 65 and older, and have living in their houses for 10 years. So there are programs out there that we could further look at, and that would obviously take some time to go through with an informational meeting, Corporation Council, but wherever we land, obviously, if there is an appetite to learn more about programs that are optional to the local level, obviously that's not covered by the state, so we would have to make up that cost. There's about 3,200, I believe, estimate of households that qualify for something like this in the city, so we can get more in depth with that to keep that in the back of your mind, along with there's some veteran exemption updates from the state as well that also is more savings for our veterans. All of those things, unfortunately, don't take effect immediately, and we would have to work through those, but again, keeping that in mind. So I believe I've hit on all of the high notes as to where we're at, and as I stated, the goal for us, certainly by the end of this week, would be to just get me to a spot where you all kind of feel comfortable at being, so I can put that together and give you some more higher detailed information of where we would be at. So right now, you just kind of have some overall concepts of where we could look at and reductions and things like that. So that's what I have, Mayor.
Thank you. This leads me to ask a couple of questions about this updated sheet. The increased savings through TIF transfers.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So we found in looking really closely at our TIFs, now that they're coming more in focus, that some of our construction projects, utilities, and paving, we can actually use some TIF funding rather than our paving dollars. So that basically $1 million price tag that we have in Public Works, we can reduce in TIF dollars, and that will come at a savings to the general fund. We need to be cautious with that, because obviously that would create, if we didn't have those same dollars, because those are earmarked for specific areas and locations, so we had to be very careful looking at our TIFs and where we could use those. And we found in one of it, there's still some money in the gas TIF, which is pretty consistent with roads that have gas in them, so we had to do natural gas in them, so we had to do some research. But we could, and I would recommend that at the top of the list to reduce some of the burden on this year. So that was kudos to Ingrid on identifying those particular projects that we can put that in.
Okay. And my next question had to do over on the flip side on the delayed hiring and layoffs. I know that one of your earlier memos had talked about some delayed hirings and the timing of hirings for some current vacant positions, but not eliminating certain of those positions. But you've characterized some of this as layoffs and.
Yeah, so I kind of categorize the areas that I'm looking at. Obviously, the delayed hirings, you have a list of the police department, Public Works, with those positions that aren't currently filled. I've also identified with staff some current positions that are filled, that if we have to go into deeper impacts, that would be actual layoffs of employees who are currently working.
So without identifying positions, how many positions are involved in that estimate that you've given us?
In that estimate, there are 4 positions.
4 layoffs?
Yeah. Thank you. That should have been emailed to you, counselors, in your email right around 6:15. If you don't have them, I'll check when I get a break to make sure they are, and they're also with your council packets with hard copies. So they should be in your email right now. If not, they're coming across momentarily. Thank you. No, I have them. I sent them to them.
And I guess my third question has to do with the bottom item, additional revenues, investment, income transfer. Is that just a refined estimate about revenues?
No, when we look at our investment income that we have that is listed as a revenue that we actually invest money in, there is some money in there that if you so choose, I can transfer into the budget to lessen the impact as well. The trade-off to that is that money doesn't get invested and make money, but it can be used at your discretion to lessen the budget impacts as well.
Councilor Lynn?
Some questions around the delayed hiring layoffs, Jared. First, I should know this, but unemployment compensation, are we self-insured? Will we pay the unemployment we charge from Department of Labor, or?
That's through our insurance, Maine Municipal
All right.
Association. Yes.
Second question, for the bargaining unit positions, is a bump and retreat delay, I'm sure you calculated that delay in here, or?
Yeah,
So everybody knows. I mean, I don't
Yes.
know if everybody understands, just, it could take quite a while within a bargaining unit before you see someone walk out the door or drop off the payroll.
correct. Yes,
and then-
there's an entire process to that.
Right. Severance pay?
That would be worked out through, our corporation council. But, with union contracts, it's very specific as to if there isn't enough money to fund a budget, the process to that.
Okay. The further high-impact cuts, I'm just curious, like Fort Western close, did you look at maybe reducing the program? And then pools, maybe consolidating the pools, bicentennial, maybe reducing the program rather than just a cut?
We could certainly look at modifying that as well.
To look at that?
Yeah.
I think all of them are worthy. I just don't know if, I'd like to see an option rather than just yes or no.
Sure. Yeah, all of that is on the table to say, again, this is just to kind of give you a general idea
Sure.
of what they would be, but there can be a combination of a number of things within here.
And then with vehicles, I mean, there's a long list on the schedule, a 5-year schedule, which is $757,000 bill this year. Did you go deeper than this? Did you look at these, or?
Yeah, you're talking about through Central Garage.
That's correct.
Yeah, that Central Garage, remember, is an inter-service fund, so their fees that they charge actually pay for those vehicles. If we were to, the only way to save in the budget would be to not charge the general fund folks like
Correct.
Parks and Rec for those vehicles.
Correct, yeah.
And that would basically defeat the whole concept of an inter-service fund, because that's how they seek their compensation. But we could certainly look at
We'd save money.
reducing the fees and stuff like that and
Yep.
not replacing, yes.
Yeah.
And no, to your question, I did not,
I'd
that's
like-
not
I'd like-
included in
I'd
there.
like to take a look at that and see if we could save.
Okay.
Councilor Lilly?
Thank you. With the investment income transfer, is that money that's already in an account, or would this be money that we don't put into it this year?
It'd be money we don't put into this year.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
not-
so we wouldn't
we
take
wouldn't be pulling anything out, getting a penalty or anything like that?
No penalty.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Yep.
Any questions or observations or advice? So I think, Mr. Superintendent, members of the school board, I think a lot of us watched your finance committee meeting. So you're, at this point, you're kind of standing pat and waiting for direction from the council. Is that my understanding? Okay. 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 All right, thank you for being here. Someone's,
I have a question for the superintendent, or no?
one
Go ahead,
second,
sorry.
hold 1 second.
Yep.
Both counselors remotely like to speak. I don't know who you want to call in first.
Yeah, we've been to Councilor Lind once already and Councilor Lilly once already. So let's go with Councilor Gary Allen.
I defer to Counselor Michoud. He wanted to speak first. He just hasn't been able to figure out how to.
Well, I was trying to do ladies first, but. Councilor Mishi, you want to go?
It would be my pleasure. Nice to see everybody tonight. I'm in a awful place, but I'm still here. Anyways, since the newspaper article came out a week or so ago, I have received, and I can't speak for every other counselor, several messages from my constituents in regards to a 20% increase of the budget. And I'm going to cut right to the chase. One of my constituents raised the question of watching the school department and watching the school board and watching for almost the last year what he referred to as the Augusta, Maine version of the Jerry Springer Show. So that elephant is in the room, and he just basically said, you know, is this what we have to expect from the school? We want to give them almost $4 million more. And we're basically financing something that has become a bit of a distraction. And he feels that the students aren't getting the best education, and he just is wondering when somebody is going to own that so this all goes away. That was from one constituent, and several others have a concern that 20% will basically take them away from their homes and out of Augusta because they just certainly can't afford it. And nobody knows what the reval is going to be. So again, I am concerned as a taxpayer in Augusta, as a lot of other people. And I think that we have to live within our means, and we are not alone. There are many municipalities in Maine that are facing the same problem. So whether it be layoffs, whether it would be whatever it is, I mean, we entered this process last year looking at a 0% increase, not knowing what the reval is going to be. And as a taxpayer, as a city councilor, and to my constituents, I plan to make sure that whatever that means, we are not going to raise taxes in Augusta for this year. So that means that we're going to have to tighten up our belts, but I am only one person, but one person that is speaking for his constituents. And I know there are several departments that we can look at. I'll point out the library for one. Library, I love the library, but it's library's budget is I think that it can be worked with, and several other departments to get the municipal budget down. And I think it's time the school department, again, we had a joint meeting a few weeks ago and they presented a roughly $3.2 million budget to us. And the following Monday, it went up to 3.7. So I'm going to be brutally honest. We need to cut everything, and until we do, and still have to live within our means, I guess I've just said where I stand. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for that. Now, Councilor Gary Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Counselor Michoud. City Manager Mills, would you be able to provide a short list of, either now or after the meeting, of anything that is in this budget that is an addition or new spending. The one thing that I have written down in my notes is an increase to our transportation costs of 120,000 in addition to the 35,000 to KV cap. Is there anything else in this budget that is a new or additional spending this year on the city side?
Yeah, there's I won't say a number of things, but there are things that are in there. That one comes to mind if you notice in the document I provided, that's actually listed as a cut on the top of page 2. And anything else that I come up with, I can let you know exactly what any new programs or additional costs. You're essentially looking for not increases in existing costs, but anything new is what you're looking at.
Yes.
Yeah, then there's not too many of those. That's the only thing that comes out to the top of my head right now, but I'll go through it thoroughly and give you a list.
Okay, thank you. I would 100% support removing the additional funding for transportation. I would also be interested in having a conversation about ending our contract with KV Cap. I would also be in support of delaying hiring as outlined by the city manager in a previous memo. I'm not currently prepared to speak to layoffs, but I'm prepared to support the delaying of 2 police officers, public works supervisor, and 2 firefighters for the total cost of about $500,000. I'm not prepared to support the closure of pools or Bicentennial Park, or even the decrease in hours.
Mr. Manager?
And just a point, at last meeting, Councilor Gary Allen, I believe you had an appointment, so you didn't hear that, but just to be clear, the firefighters are on the SAFER grant. That was originally listed, but they have to be filled at least until February. So we can't reduce that number without, as part of the grant. What could happen is if there was a vacancy after February, or a layoff after February. So that could only be realized from March, April, May, June for 4 months of the fiscal year if we wanted to look into that. I originally listed them as possible, and after doing research, because of the SAFER grant, we have to fill all positions or we don't get that grant money.
Thank you, Andrew. You are correct. I did miss that meeting due to safety concerns. I appreciate you updating me on that.
Anyone else first time?
No.
Councilor Lynn?
The delayed hiring, how long was that delay?
For the police department?
Well, it just says delayed hiring, public safety, public works, community services development. It's kind of a
Yep.
broad statement.
Yeah, I gave the broad one. I was more detailed in the last one because I'm wrapping them all together now. But the police department delay, there are 4 positions down right now. So they would hire 1 immediately. They would hire the second after 6 months. They would hire the third after 9 months, and the fourth presumably next year at next year's budget. So there would be 1 that would go unfilled for the entire year, and then that phased-in hiring to realize some savings with those 4 positions. Now, again, keeping in mind when I don't offer those positions lightly, because that's something we obviously is essential service and we need, but looking at the time it takes to hire those particular positions, I felt comfortable offering that phased-in approach because they're not, obviously, as we all know, getting the applications that they used to. So I think if they get 1 right off, it takes about 3 months to go through a process, so that will give them time to hire appropriately, which is what's kind of the method to my thought process with that. And then the public works supervisor is for an entire year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you, I don't know our vacancy rate, but did you explore across the city delay of 30 days or 60 days?
Of positions?
Positions, all of them?
We
Other than the seasonal that are needed immediately, obviously, but
yeah,
tenured positions.
yeah, for the full-time positions, we don't
Correct.
have any vacancies.
Okay, so you don't, not a large turnover then?
Right. Yeah, we've, interestingly enough, I mean, we weren't in this position a year ago or 2 years ago, but we've really, I was talking to the clerk, for the last clerk's 2 position, we had 65 applicants. So, I mean, it's one of those situations where we're getting plenty of applications. It's still really in the police department phase. Even the fire department, with their 2 retirements they already have positions to fill, to backfill.
Yeah, acknowledging we're probably going to meet again, I would like to see some options when it comes to, like I said, Fort Western, the pools, Bicentennial Park. You know, and a lot of people have talked about the library. The library is a cornerstone of our city, and I don't know if we could explore maybe reducing some of their hours without impacting the mission of what they do and what they provide. They are open a lot. I don't know if there's some way to seek some savings there. I don't want to close Fort Western, I don't want to close Bicentennial Park, but we're in a tough spot, and maybe going lean would be the way to go. You know, Bicentennial Park, you could see weekends, maybe Friday. I don't know if are they open during the week?
Yeah.
Yeah, a reduction there. Maybe consolidating the pools, close 2 or something like that. Just some options. A menu.
When you talk about closing the pool, are you just talking about the pools or the whole playground operation?
Just the pools, you know, getting with, talking to Earl Kingsbury, asking him what it costs. And that primary driver is lifeguards and costs and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, and keep in mind too that, you know, it's by providing this detail, I did it for a point of, you know, just so you realize what we're looking at, that we can reduce. I really looked at it as needs and wants type thing, that I've heard that phrase before. But no, definitely that, again, if we can get to a consensus on a number of where we'd like to be, all that will be on the table for me, is to then take that number with the least impact, with all of the things you're talking about, Council Linden, not going all in on certain things, but being able to work those costs as well. So I certainly will come back with some prorated adjustments to those to give you an idea, but in the end, it's really going to come down to you telling me this is where we feel comfortable being at, to vote affirmative on, and then me coming back to say, this is where we're at and how I get you there.
I think the difficulty in that, Jared, for me, is not realizing the impact of picking a number, given the gravity of what we're looking at. The 20% is so huge. It isn't like we're tweaking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is such a large mountain to try to get over that it's very difficult, I think, for me, at least me, to get my head wrapped around it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess maybe I was being too aspirational. If I had a number, perhaps tonight or Thursday, I could then give you those ideas for the Thursday meeting and that
I mean,
type
if we
of
were to tier with you and say 10, 5, 3, 0, could you come back with a model?
10, 5, 3, 0.
Percent increases. If we want a 10%, 5%, 3%, no.
Decreases.
Total increase, tax increase, 10%, 5%,
Oh, gotcha.
3%.
Yes.
Zero.
Yes. Oh, I could give you that tonight.
All right,
Yeah, I could give you those models tonight of
Okay.
at least the number of what that is.
all right.
Yeah.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Manager, for putting these things together for us. One of the things I was curious about, I had time over the weekend to look through the paperwork that our assessor put together and gave us last meeting. I was wondering, we keep talking about this 20%, but when you look at the needs from taxes in FY26, that 19 million, we actually brought in, I don't have that right page in front of me, but I believe it was 21 million. And city manager and I had a conversation today about that difference, that some of that is due to growth. So when we're looking between FY26 and 27, the difference between 19 million and 24 million in needs from taxes, some of that is the needs from taxes, and some of that change reflects growth in our city. So when we're discussing a 20% increase, that some of that is growth in the tax base, reflected in the amount of property tax that will be collected, is what I understand. I would love to have our assessor come give us some information about what she provided to us and help us understand that distinction if she doesn't mind. Thank you, Christy.
So can you repeat where you got the,
Yeah, so.
sorry, Christy Sheehan, assessor.
There's many pages to flip through. So on page 22, we look at our tax rate summary, right? And then in our revenues, where did I lose those to? I believe those are in the 40s. No, that's not the right one. Revenues are. Where are overall revenues? General fund. That's still not right, am I? Wherever in here, the year-to-year revenues are for the general fund. Shouldn't have taken my sticky note out earlier today.
The total revenues that you're looking for?
Which page?
Total revenues?
Yeah,
Page 41, is that what you're looking at?
119?
119 is the one I'm looking for. Thank you, Councillor Lind. There we go. I'm actually looking at one. Nope, I guess that does show it as well. On 118, we look at the FY26 budget for 2026 real estate taxes was 19.5 million, which is what's approximately reflected on our tax rate summary sheet in the needs from taxes for municipal. We are projected to bring in 21 million, and I am understanding that some of that is due to things like the sales of tax acquired properties that put properties back on the tax rolls, and items like that that we might not have been able to anticipate a year ago today. And so when I think about that, and I think about the change between the 19 million that we budgeted for last year and the 24 million that we're potentially budgeting for this year, some of that change is, the rate of change is not as large as it looks necessarily on our tax rate summary, correct? Because our mill rate is taking in the 21 million already. Does that make any more sense?
possibly between the two of us together. So I don't contribute to the revenues as part of this process. So what I had provided, part of what I had provided is, last year, there was an increased value of over $16 million. So that was from growth specifically, if that helps.
Yes.
And then the tax rate from last year times that value would have increased the growth that was attributed, the taxes attributed to growth. As far as what we're budgeting, it's the total value, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the total value, yeah. and
By the mill rate.
We were talking today about projections versus budgeted, and what I had indicated before is putting those numbers in as the balanced budget, because we don't know at this point those combined. But one of the things I had indicated to Councilor Sankowitz was the large amount of tax-acquired properties we had sold this year, and either that or gotten back on the tax rolls, get back taxes paid and that type of thing. So that was the conversation we were having. But for the budget numbers itself, those are set by Ingrid when we're putting the budget together, and can obviously change from projected to actual once the mill rate's set in late July and that type of thing. So that's why that's not an exact target, but there was an increase this year and will continue to be as we get the tax acquired properties back on the tax rolls.
Which there's quite a few for this year, and that does contribute to the growth. We do track all that as an increase of taxable value, along with any new construction but we
Yeah.
also track demolitions or nonprofit entities that have purchased taxable property. So we keep track of all of that until it comes down to an increase in taxable value.
And you provided a version of that for us, correct?
Yes,
this
it's a very
packet?
intricate spreadsheet, so I just kind of did a couple screenshots of what would make the most sense, I hope.
And that has highlighted that 16 million that you talked about
For last year, yes.
for last year, the $16 million of growth in the 25 to 26 year is what we're talking about? Is that
Yes.
correct?
We're currently still tracking the growth outside of the revaluation for all every like new construction project, or even comes down to a small shed. We track everything to try to match it up to what our system. So it's a cross-check of making sure we're accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reason I bring this up is that it is a large and scary number to talk about a 20% tax increase. And that, in my understanding, there is nuance in that 20% number, that is not the necessity, that is not necessarily what the taxpayer will feel at their tax bill. Am I understanding that correctly? Because the needs from taxes are growing, but they are also spread amongst a larger tax base.
Yes, but I'm not sure about the larger, what you mean by the larger, spread out by the larger, into the larger tax base.
That 20% number that we've talked about, that needs from taxes in our tax rate sheet, that is the raw number. That is the dollar amount that is growing for the entire city budget, correct? Here it's 8.6, it's no longer 8.6 million. So what I'm understanding, which correct me if I'm wrong, is that some of that needs from taxes is being, could maybe be talked about as being absorbed by tax growth instead of each taxpayer feeling a 20% increase in their tax bill. Is that making any sense?
No, I don't think that's what that's reflecting. It's the needs from taxes is what you see. It's the valuation.
Right. Yeah.
the number below that you see, because our value is so much more, that obviously adjusts our mill rate to come down. But I'm not sure that this depicts any difference, and maybe a misunderstanding, but go ahead.
No, that 20% it is taken up by some growth and some revaluation. I see what you're saying. So
Yes.
it is spread all over. So all commercial properties, there's there's personal property that we'll be paying. That all contributes to the total value, which the city manager is using for that number. That does equate to the 20%.
So when we focus on the 20% increase, so the point of this questioning is when we're thinking about what number to aim for, we are trying our best to think about what the taxpayer will experience, right? And usually we do that by looking at the change in the tax rate. But this year, because of the reval, that number is kind of elusive to us. So we've been looking at the needs from taxes line instead. But that is not a one-to-one comparison, correct?
It just paints the picture or gives you that rate, the needs from taxes. But you're absolutely correct in that the elusive number is the line below that at the tax rate has reduced 29%.
Right.
Almost 30%, but that's because our value has
Right.
gone up so much. So I think that's what you're articulating, and that's what causes our mill rate to come down, because if we left our mill rate the same, we would then collect so much
So
more
much
money
more.
than
We
we
don't need
needed.
it.
So,
Right.
yeah, those are the two, well, I mean, it's the whole tax rate sheet as you look at it, but that's what we've tried to explain to folks, is that the tax rate going down normally is a great thing, and we can look at that like, wow, we've reduced the tax rate by 29.5, but that's because of a revaluation only. So if we had stayed the same, those increases would still be, that tax rate would be up rather than down because of the revaluation.
Okay. The other part of our conversation earlier, City Manager, about personal property taxes, is that something that we've explored yet?
We did, and talking to Ingrid, again, that's back on the page 118, looking at her numbers for personal property versus property tax itself. The $3 million number, again, that Ingrid put in there was a placeholder for last year. So it doesn't fluctuate if you look at it over the years. Of 5 million is what personal property kind of stays at, because of the depreciation over the years. So the question was, well, if we collected more personal property, would that then reduce the needs type thing? So if we collected more personal property, that would obviously just reduce the need for the overall other part of that equation is the property tax. But in the end, those two numbers combined are what's needed to balance
Right.
the budget. So, I mean, and Ingrid, you can chime in too. I know you've explained it, but it basically is something that we estimate because, again, those aren't realized until late July. But that number probably wouldn't be so confusing or enticing to look at closely if it was 5 million, which it very well could be in the FY26 budgeted.
I think my question, looking historically, it stays pretty close to 5 million. Knowing that we're going through the reval, is there an ability to estimate a higher amount because of the reval for the FY27 budget in the personal property taxes?
So I did as part of the value that we're using and in the mill rate calculation. So that total value includes an estimated increase due to the revaluation of personal property taxes.
Okay, and that's the 5 million that is anticipated here?
That is broken down by Ingrid as far as just, so I contribute the value.
Yep.
And then she breaks down what the anticipated tax revenue is from that. Is that correct?
Right, so it comes from the tax rate summary sheet. So those two items are just simply the breakdown of the total needs from taxes for the municipal side. So I can add another million to the 5 million, but it would take another million out of the real estate. It's just gonna fluctuate that way. So it's not like I can just increase it without it affecting the other side. It's simply coming from this number, which is the equation of what our total expenses are, less the revenues we know, and then the difference is what we need from taxes, and that goes up and down based on cuts we make or revenues we add. So trying to do these individually isn't going to make a difference.
The part that I think I'm struggling with is that I understood that our personal property taxes have, what is the right word? Been affected by the certified ratio, and that would no longer be the case in the FY27. And I understand we have historically budgeted for 3 million, but at least for the 2 years that we have here, we have taken in 5 million. Can we, and so there is a reflection here that we are budgeting the 5 million now. Is it possible to anticipate a higher return, since we know this 5 million is fairly steady, that ratio getting close to 100 will affect the amount of taxes taken in from personal property tax?
So you're talking about adjusting it on its own? I guess I'm not understanding entirely. If we anticipate more coming in to raise that?
I may be misunderstanding this. It was my understanding that what we are able to tax off of the value of personal property is affected by our certified ratio, and that by doing the reval, we will be less affected by that certified ratio. Our mill rate and the tax bills that we collect for personal property taxes will be higher. Am I correct so far?
Yeah, that.
So I anticipated for that increase in part of the total valuation that we're using for the mill rate. And so that mill rate times the total valuation is the total amount of taxes that we're bringing in. And then Ingrid has just broken that down to, we don't know, it's an estimation of how much we're going to take in for real estate and how much we're going to take in for personal property. So it's not, it is taken into consideration in her numbers. It just might not be reflecting in the number, the number of taxes, the value of taxes we're bringing in.
Okay.
But it is, in the beginning, that has been accounted for.
Okay, so that higher amount of what we are able to collect for taxes from personal property taxes is reflected in the 24 million and change, or perhaps on the revenue side. Yeah, the 24 million and change on the revenue side.
No, the needs from taxes is where that number would
Okay.
be reflected.
Okay.
The revenue sides are what we know, what we are pretty sure of. It's the taxes, the equation we have to do that tells us what we need from the taxes, so as not to over budget for taxes or under budget for taxes. So that's why that amount right there it's a moving target.
Yeah.
As we go through the budget process.
It's the line in needs from taxes, 24,292,742. So if that was the 24 million you were talking about, it's the needs from taxes line,
Yeah, I think I still
not the
need
revenue.
to,
It's not a revenue, it's the needs from taxes.
The
The
needs from
revenue is all the other
correct.
stuff that, excise tax, things
Yeah.
like that.
Okay, I think I still need to mill this over a little bit, but Christy, I wanted to give you an opportunity to, anything that you wanted to explain to us from the handout so that we better understand the impact of the reval and what we're talking about in terms of tax rate changes. I really appreciated that you gave us examples of what the proposed tax rate changes would be, what it would look like if we got down to like a 16 mill rate, and what different homes, in my understanding, these are homes that have sold recently. I'm looking at this one.
Yes. they have.
What they actually would assess at with the reval.
It is a range of properties that did sell as part of the sales ratio study that the state would have used to give us, I want to say it would have been at 43%. I'm trying to ignore that number, that we would have gone down to if we were not conducting a revaluation. So that's the comparison of how low we are, or were in the midst, depending on if we were not conducting a revaluation. So I'm not sure how much you want me to explain. Did
I'm
you
sure
want me
you
to
could
go line by
explain
line?
quite a lot to us. This is very complicated. There's so much that goes into it.
Did you want her to pick out a couple of examples, or was that what you were
Yeah,
asking?
I think that would be good to talk through, because one of the things we keep hearing is that this reval is so opaque that people don't understand how it will play out. And I think the reality is that we're looking at a tough year, and that some of these numbers probably still will sound scary to people. I think we've heard from other municipalities and within our municipality that the proposed rate of change is a lot. But I'm a proponent anyway of working with the numbers that we actually have, so that we're not just feeling scared of something that might not actually be based in reality. And I think you provided us some reality here.
Okay. I'll start with a lower assessed single family. This isn't provided for the public, so I'm not sure. I'll just explain to the best of my ability. Previously valued at $80,000 with a homestead exemption of $14,000. That reduced homestead exemption was due to our lower ratio. We have to adjust that by our certified ratio. If I can back up, just for explanation purposes, our ratio is lowered because each year the state has us conduct a sales ratio study that they review, and we have to send back to them, and they decide, okay, you're at this percentage of market sales to assessed values, and we have to abide by that. That's what they've certified us at. So I included the tax for the current year, the sale price, and then the percentage of sale price. So we have on the lower end, there's a property at where the assessed value was 31% of the sale price, and it looks like for the sheet there was a property that sold for 56%. That's out of the norm currently for our values. That's actually pretty good. And then the proposed assessed value, there are some numbers in our system, but they're not done with their work. We're about 43% of completion on all properties being looked at by by KRT. And then just the ratio of what the new proposed value would be. So it would bring us up to state standards at that point, within a range of state standards. So we would be able to certify at 100%, which would bring us up to 100% for all exemptions, and not have to adjust our business personal property by that lowered ratio.
So did you want her to pick out an example and actually use real numbers, or is that how you wanted to illustrate the point, or?
It sounds like that, I don't know if without it being for the public, then maybe it's
Confusing to
confusing.
not see what.
Yeah, but I think the gist of what I took from this is that the closer an individual's home is in actual value to the tax assessed value, which everyone can access their assessed value online, and an estimate of their sale value through Zillow or Redfin or whatever. The closer those values are together, the less the impact of the reval. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That makes sense. Yes.
And so when I look at this range, there are homes like the home that was assessed at 31% of its sale price is going to see a greater degree of difference in their taxes than the home that was assessed at 56%.
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
And as much as we want to give everybody exactly what their change will be at this point in time, that can at least give you a little bit of guidance in figuring that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank
I
you.
know this was a lot of work.
Thank you.
Counselor Morris Polly.
Thank you. Just a couple questions while you're up here, Christy.
Of course.
One, to clarify, and I'm not sure the answer on this, hoping you can help. The Homestead Exemption Act, that's only for your primary residence. So if you have if your investment home or rentals, the homestead exemption does not play into that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the second, you gave us the county tax property growth factors for 2023, 24, and 25.
Okay. Yes.
And help me understand this a little bit. I'm assuming that the property growth factor in 2023 was 2%, meaning that our growth was of the city of Augusta from a tax property point of view only went up by 2%.
Correct.
And then in 2024, it went up by, it actually fell, it went down to 1.8%. And then in 2025, it went down to 1.7%. So essentially, over the last 3 years, our property tax value, or growth, not value, but growth, has been dropping. Is that correct?
Yes, but it is directly related to the lower ratio. There are a lot of things that have to be adjusted besides the exemptions. That the personal property, for instance, our forested tree growth has to be adjusted by that as well. So there's quite a few properties that take advantage of that, and that is adjusted as well. So it's personal property is one of those lines on that form. So
Wouldn't the TIFs affect that also, and keep our value down as well?
I believe so. That was the one form that I didn't.
More
see the
TIFs
copy
we
of.
add,
And that
it
would
makes
make
it look
sense.
like we're not.
Yep.
we're
Yep.
lower.
I mean, I'm trying to think that economic growth really isn't just measured by the assessed value, because we know that's going to flex, right? The assessed value, we have depreciation, and then we have inflation, and so that assessed value. So when we're looking at economic growth, I think of economic growth more from a point of view of like the total number of individuals that have moved into this city. Is there more individuals living in this city? Have we broken up the properties into more buildable parcels where we have some very large parcels of land? Is there more businesses in this city than there used to be? So those are kind of the things I look at for economic growth. Do we have any measures of those that would show growth of our city besides just the monetary inflation and depreciation?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So one of the screenshots of the bottom of the spreadsheet that we keep. So it looks at assessor spreadsheet tracking annual increases. So Mariner Way, for example, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's Mariner
again?
Way is a new small subdivision. So when that one lot was broken down into, forgive me, off the top of my head, I'm going to say 6, then those smaller parcels became more valuable. So that would contribute to the growth in the land column. We definitely, as far as new businesses, if we know of one, if it's a new business license, we definitely send them their personal property declaration that they should be returning. And so we definitely keep track of that as well. So was there a third?
The number of people living in the city.
I'm not sure if that would contribute to what I,
Yeah, that's more the census, but we had talked about too, you had kind of given me like the amount of houses being built, there are more houses and, multi-use.
Sure.
You kind of had a measure of that growth as well from year to year. that you
we
were
do
able
keep
to
track
show.
of that multi-unit. So Sturgeon Landing is the one I can think of off the top of my head.
And so do we know if that's what percentage that is going up? Is it relatively similar to 2%, 3%? Do we have a certain percentage mark on that, or we just?
Individually, I don't have a percentage on that individually. I see what you mean. I just have a total in the end.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Lilly, did you want to, you had a hand up earlier, but, okay. So let me,
I'm good.
okay. Let me see if I can find something we can agree on. So going back to your sheet that you shared with us earlier today, I'm assuming the first subtotal, 251, 291, savings already achieved. Everybody's okay with that?
Have to be, it's already gone.
Okay, well, that's why I thought that we'd start with a low-hanging fruit
Right,
here.
right.
The next category is increased savings through additional TIF transfers, the 850 there. Is everybody fine with incorporating that?
I am.
Any objection? All right. The next subtotal is the additional budget reductions, the equipment plowing carrying over the top of the next page totaling 228,000. Anybody, is everybody okay with that, or want to piecemeal that? You okay? Is that
I just,
question?
yeah, I just want to make
Yeah.
a comment about that.
Sure.
So I'm looking at these, and I am thinking about the fact that taking away the tools to do the job is not going to solve this problem next year. We're still going to have salaries and health insurance and fringe benefits and all of these things that are going to come each year. And so I am not sure how taking away things like disinfectants and police cruisers and repair maintenance to the public works building and code enforcement equipment and repairs to buildings is going to solve this. So I'm a little hesitant to just kind of start, agreeing to cutting these small amounts to get down to something that I'm not sure we're going to ever get down to. I know that we've been pulling from savings. The school itself for the last 2 or 3 years pulled from savings every single year. And then last year, we pulled from, I don't know if you want to call it TIF dollars or savings to cover it. We're going to continue to roll into this problem over and over until we start to really talk about bigger things. When we start to look at funds from other places that we may be able to increase, or decreasing positions in order to get away from this continual rolling. But we are looking at, I think, a city, our economic development is not big enough to withstand what it is our bills are. And so I don't necessarily think that these are good or bad. I think they're small pieces to the puzzle. But I did want to put out there that I do think that we've been pulling from savings year after year, and the school ran out of their savings, and now we are running out of our savings, and continuing to do what we're doing isn't going to solve the problem that we really have. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Counselor Lynn?
So it's a great lead. I had a conversation with the city manager last week about an economic plan, a 10-year economic strategic plan. But my issue this year is the reval. And that's why I think things like this are critical, because, and I like to just hear, and I've explained it a few times, I think I understand it.
Okay.
But, the concern is, first a question on the revenue. Some of that is sure things, and some is projected. And the projected is the assessment and that portion,
The needs for
tax
taxes.
increase. Yeah, right. So, I kind of understand what Council Sinkus was getting to, because in years past, the budget would start way early. As we get closer to the end, all of a sudden that number would become a little more clear. And often it was a little better than it was when we started. Unfortunately, with the reval, we really don't have clarity right now to be able to see that. And the concern is, if we don't hit everything we can and survive this 1 year, is the shift from commercial to residential and the impact on individual homes and people. That's my concern. When I look at the 43% on the residential versus 77% on commercial, That's my concern. It isn't, it's gut wrenching in a way because we've got to impact the city and the school, but I think we've got to survive for people to be able to see where that lands for them in their home. And that variance is huge to me. So if you could, in layman's terms, kind of put that impact, you know, these numbers are, I think, set it here. I mean, some of these homes, some of the streets are not the best streets, but the assessed value versus what it's sold is astounding. It really is. And I can tell you from a personal experience what I dealt with. You know, I was a conservator for my mom. I had her house looked at by a senior real estate agent in 2014, valued at $75,000. It sold for $177 last year. That's what's going to happen to people. So, you know, the expenditures are the expenditures and the revenues are the revenues. But that revenue source is going to spread differently, and it's going to be coming from homes more than it has before. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. There is a shift to, from commercial to residential, but that will also spread over multi-unit buildings, larger, so it's all residential. Residential itself has increased, not just single-family homes.
Okay. And it's hard to see the clarity in that impact to those 3,000 people that are over the age of 65, or the 42% that are single home, single one paycheck in the house. So that's what's difficult sitting here right now. It's very difficult. And, you know, I think we're all searching for some clarity. We may not get it. We may not have it. So we've got to do some gut wrench calls here. And, you know, I am concerned about the fund balance. I mean, we've never gone below 8.33. And that, in of itself, doesn't seem like a huge concern because the charter requires 5. It says shall 5, strive 8.33. But correct me if I'm wrong, that's going to impact our ability or could impact our ability to secure debt if we go below the 8.33, and we're below the 8.33. So that is a huge risk. It isn't just that we could use it. I mean, the school is taking risk because their fund balance allows them to absorb the ups and downs. But on the city side, that's a long-term risk, being able to borrow at a lower rate, and that's going to hit us for years. So that is huge. And I don't know how to get from here to there. I mean, again, sorry, I'm concerned about all of that.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it does seem like a large jump. One of the reasons is that we've waited so long. The city of Augusta really should have done a reval before it had gotten down to where it is now. That's why there's such an increase. So
I agree.
it seems like a jump, but it would have been almost as big last year or the year before. So
Or the year before.
I can't tell. Shu, Councilman Mishu.
He's on mute.
Mike's off.
Can't hear you.
You're on mute, Mike.
Can you hear me now? I'm not very computer literate, so I just wanted to say that my rough and gruff and approach sometimes, I just want to say that Councilor Morris Pauly really, really said what I was thinking very eloquently. And we're going to reach a point, if we already haven't, that the city's going to fall off a cliff, and we're in no position to be in credit card debt, as it were. So again, number one, I'm not in favor of the nickel and dime things. I think kids need a place to go in the summertime, and I've been by those pools when it's 90 degrees and those pools are packed. I think that's essential. I think Fort Western brings people into our community, and it's a valuable resource, as you know, as some of these other things. I know I want to get to a zero budget, but I think there's ways that we can do that. You know, again, Fort Weston is an economic driver in Augusta, and those pools are essential for these kids to be able to go out and recreate and cool off in hot summer days. Thank you.
All right, so I want to get back and finish this exercise. I know that we're going to have to go much beyond this exercise, but I'm trying to get, I mean, even with this exercise, we're talking $2 million, and I want to start getting to a figure that the city manager can work with. So understanding the larger concern about the impact of value of the reval, understanding the larger concern about the overall budget picture, I'm just hoping that we can knock off a few of these things to kind of get it closer to where we need to get. So back to the additional budget reductions, you know, the nickel and dime stuff, if you want to call it that totaled $228,000. Is everybody content is there anybody that doesn't want to include those, or are we all content counting on those?
That'll be fine.
Okay. The next category was the delayed hiring and layoffs. Let's just talk about the delayed hiring first, and that's on the range of what, 500,000 probably?
The delayed hiring for the police and the public works position is about 390,000.
390,000, round it to 4. So the balance of that 718,000 figure would be the layoffs?
Correct.
All right. So with respect to the delayed hiring at 390, anybody object to that or want to talk about that some more?
Yes, on the delayed hiring, as far as I'm concerned. Folks, as you said, we're going to have to go deeper than what this is right now. And I see us all struggling a little bit with a few of these decisions. Get over it. We have to do this. These alternatives right now are better than the ones we're going to have a very heavy discussion about in just a few more minutes. So I'm all in on the delayed hiring. I want to talk about some other things before I will agree to layoffs.
So with respect to the delayed hiring, I think we're going to incorporate that. Okay. So the only other, I'm going to stop right there, except to talk about perhaps the additional revenues, the investment income transfer. How do people feel about that?
Absolutely, it's another 130,000. It brings in revenue. We've got to focus on reducing the money needed for taxes. If we do that, then we drop the mill rate. The mill rate is what's going to plug into each individual property owner's taxes to determine what they really have for an increase or not.
All right, so if we incorporated the investment income transfer too, that, we're a little short of $2 million, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, where I'm going with this is I want to get to your projections at different rates of reductions, right? So when you had identified a reduction of $2 million, right? And what the impact would be on the needs from taxes. If I understand this correctly, we're still talking about a 16% tax increase, even with
2 million gets us down to about 16%.
16 mill rate or 16%?
In needs from taxes, the overall number at the bottom between school, municipal, and county. It's at 20 now. It
Where
gets,
does that take the mill rate?
let me see. Takes the mill rate to
1660, right? Is that it?
2 million right here. Yep, 1660, yep.
1660 from,
1721.
okay.
So, having gone through that exercise, talking about $2 million, we're still at a little over 16% tax increase, which is intolerable. So, now we can start having indulged me in that exercise, now we can start talking about these bigger changes that I know that many of you think that we have to do. So where do we go from here? Councilor Judkins.
I'll start. I've been quiet too long. I'm concerned that our growth pattern is decreasing. Augusta, with our situation of having so much property that's owned by the state government and other nonprofits, and that about half of our property owners have to support the full weight of the tax burden for this city, makes it very difficult. Our way out of it is to grow our tax base. That's our only way out, folks. The problem with that, it's decreasing. The economy is contracting. And worse than that, and speaking from discussions with lots of my colleagues, only in the sense that I'm a real estate broker, and I'm in the front trench bringing new people to this community. My colleagues talk to me about it. And two of the biggest drivers to have people come into a new community or change where they're going to be living is taxes and schools. And we now have people steering around Augusta. They're happy to come here and work, but they're steering around Augusta. I've told you this before, because they perceive it to be too high of taxes, and they perceive the schools to be not so good. And they do that by looking at all the ratings that are out there, the test scores, the chronic absenteeism, the 25% dropout rate. This is what builds the idea in their mind. I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong, but I'm saying it's their money to spend, their community to move to, and this is what they believe to be true. So it's their reality. So it becomes our reality. Business, we catch a little bit of a break because we are a service center. We have more people here. So business is going to come here because it's a bigger market. So that's a little bit of a break. But I am really, really concerned about the growth and building our base. That's what we have to do. We've got to find a way around it. But continuing to increase taxes is going to be counterproductive. I will tell you that I'm very concerned about our very first meeting having the school board here. I feel we were pretty direct about what we needed to see happen. I know, I've watched the tapes on the meetings, and even the superintendent himself did say at one point, I think there was 4 or 5 counselors that were not going to support this. So should we talk about a reduction? And there was crickets. It was like, nope, we're going to stay where we are. The only thing he was wrong in that statement, it wasn't 4 or 5 counselors. It was 7. And I don't know how that whole group could have been so tone deaf. And frankly, I'm ready to move on making a decision myself as to what number we can afford to fund the school at. I don't need to hear from them anymore. They had the opportunity, chose not to come back with anything. We asked them to. They didn't. So I don't need to have any more discussion. I'm ready to set my own rates. And I'd be looking for the schools at exactly what we gave them last year. 0 increase. I also think that we should look at Lithgow Library. We have a lot of other libraries here in the community. I think they're a valuable resource, but I think we need to look at cutting some hours. I need to look at cutting some programs, probably tailing back the staff a little bit. I think there's some reductions to be had there. I would look to shorten the hours on Fort Weston, but keep them open and active. And perhaps looking at shorting the hours on a few of the other things, the pool, Bicentennial Park, but keeping them all open. Part of something's better than all of nothing. So those are some of the thoughts I have swimming around in my demented mind.
Councilor Lynn.
Couple things. So in regard to the library, they've got some pretty good programs, but I don't know if they've ever thought of having volunteers perhaps staff with some of them, and they've got a pantry, they've got library of things that I know a lot of people that can't afford to do stuff rely upon. Good programs, but I don't know if we need staff doing it, and I'm sure there's people that would volunteer. And again, looking at the hours, I don't want to completely hit the library, because again, I mean, just the parking lot's full all the time. But I would like to, if it's okay, ask the superintendent a question about EPS this year. The numbers came out. I just wanted to ask a question.
Superintendent, could you join us, please?
And it kind of goes towards where I spoke before, Mike. I mean, I'm looking at a 0% increase just because of the huge increase last year, the 20%. And there is a term going around, and I'm going to be frank, people calling it a bailout. We took $2 million out of our fund balance last year. It's really set us back this year to try to lower the tax rate. We didn't shift it to the school, but we tried to lower it. So when you look at your EPS over the last few years, it's grown, but this year it decreased. I just went on and looked, and it went down, not much, but it went down a little bit.
You're talking about state subsidy, sir?
That's correct.
Okay, Mike
Yep.
Tracy, Superintendent of Schools,
Yeah,
good evening.
what I looked at on the form, help me out, Mike, the ED 279.
ED 279, sir.
Yep. So, you know, we went in FY '24 to '25, it grew 3.21%. The next year, 7.9, which, and then this year, it's dropping 0.51, which to me, cursory glance, just, you know, not digging in anything, that's an indication that there really isn't much more needed in respect to the state's formula for the schools, that everything's kind of status quo.
You heard me when I came last time
Right.
talk about the,
I know it's a flawed process,
Okay,
but
the flawed formula.
is that an assumption that they're not indicating anything that's really moving?
major change was the reduction in students. So there's a 2-year average whereby the two major things that influence the ED 279 funding formula for state aid to education are the valuation, the state valuation of the city, so what the city says Augusta's valued at, and also the student enrollment. And we were down approximately 42 students across 2 years. So the student reduction in enrollment was really what drove.
That's what's affecting that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that affect your budget numbers?
Yes, I mean, so part of, when you have an increase on the expenditure side.
Right.
In this case, the state isn't giving us more aid to help with that. It's shifting that burden to the locals.
So, you know, to kind of I carry on from what Councilor Jugdens was saying, it was tough. I thought I was pretty clear, and others were clear, and when the school board went back and nothing happened in the budget meeting, I was looking for something, hopefully something, and it's a jagged pill with everything we're facing to not see that. It is what it is, and at some point, we can't continue. You know, the growth last year, I thought there was an implied promise, you know, it was a huge increase, a 20% increase is big. $2 million from our fund balance was big. I was hoping something this year. When I saw 9%, that was tough, and then I didn't see any movement, that was tough. That's hard. With everything we're facing, it was tough to work through. So, you know, I'm not addressing you, the school board.
We're
all in this together is what I'm saying. We're all in it, and it's not an us and them thing. And, you know, to reference, maybe the city has fund balance. The reduction in our fund balance is a huge risk to the entire city and our ability to borrow and maintain. And so, and you can anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but our fund balance carries both the school and the city in terms of paying bills. It's a total of the entire appropriation, which includes the school. So it isn't just a savings, it's a little more to our fund balance and a little more risk when we start to tap into it. So I'm really concerned about going below 833, and we are. And part of that is because we gave up $2 million last year. So, you know, I'm kind of ranting here, but it's more of a frustration that I'm looking for everyone to kind of pull an oar at the same time, and I'm just not seeing it on the school side.
I can, if it would be helpful, I can address that. There have been some changes that I could address the council. Is this the time for me to give you
Good as
something
time as
that
any.
might be helpful for you?
Yeah.
So since we last spoke, there have been changes to the estimated insurance amount that we had budgeted to the tune of about $450,000. We have heard recently that we were receiving about another $150,000 in state subsidy. And as we're ending the year, the business manager and I believe we may be able to use a little bit more. Now, we don't have a sizable fund balance, but to use so that we have enough for next year, we think we can use a little bit more. So without, I'm just the superintendent. I report to a board, so I can't speak for them.
I understand.
Okay. What I can say is that we are meeting Wednesday in hopes to get some guidance from the council tonight in what direction, whether that's a hard number or specifically a percentage, something from you would be helpful for us, because then we'll go back and do that work, and then we can give those
I'm
resolutions.
speaking for myself. I'm not looking in terms of hundreds of thousands. I'm looking for millions, and I'm pretty much at zero just because of what went on last year and what we're facing here. I'm going to turn to the city manager looking for the same cuts.
Yeah.
But without that analysis, it's hard to understand the impact.
What I can tell you is that it would be a number of staff members, departments. What I was asked to help a different district. They had me consult them for a similar situation. And what I told them is what I would tell my own board, which is we have to preserve teaching and learning in the classroom. So the teacher and the students, like that, we have to look there last. But, so it's those support services, it's the extracurriculars, it's the field trips, those things that would be looked at next. And the things that staff those things would be looked at, the positions that are not direct teachers and learners in the classroom.
So that's what I was hoping for from our last meeting would start. Every day goes by is a day that we're behind.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Understood. So I outside of the board will be readdressing this Wednesday night. So.
All right. Counselor Lilly, Counselor Sinkowitz, and then Counselor Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. we've been here for almost an hour and a half, and we've saved or cut $2 million out of the city side. And it's, and the school board is here and they're looking for direction. As Councilor Lynn said, it's not thousands, it's not hundreds of thousands. We just cut 2 million in an hour and a half. And that's still not enough. We're talking 16%. That's just not, it's not possible, it's not doable. So the direction, once again, to the school board would be, if you want to partner, we have to partner together, but it seems that this is our wrap-up meeting.
Sorry. I didn't know whether to.
No, you could say,
Sorry,
come
I'm
on,
sorry.
yeah, so it's disappointing that we're at our wrap-up meeting and we're hearing that Wednesday is another chance to talk about cuts, and it's just disappointing. So the direction for me personally, not as the council as a whole, but for me would be, as Councilor Lynn said, we need millions cut, because 16% to the tax base is just not, I can't explain that. I personally can't explain it. And these numbers that were provided by the assessor's office, those are big numbers for certain people. And it's not just certain people, it's all of us. And those are some scary big numbers. So my personal direction, if you're asking for it, it sounds like you are again, the school board, if you want to partner, it almost feels too late, but we need some cuts, big ones. Thank you.
So let me interject before I go to Councilor Sinkowitz and Judkins. So follow up on that little exercise we did with the 2 million, right? So, and that just got us down to about a 16% tax increase. So to get to drop another 10%, roughly, we're talking about another $4 million just to get to 6 or 7% tax increase, another $4 million. And if you want to go below, for every 5%, we're roughly $2 million, right? So when we start thinking about the scale of things, I hope that's instructive. So, Counselor Sinkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a different take on this than my fellow counselors, and I understand I'm in the minority here. I don't remember asking the school board to go back and take cuts last time. My recollection of that meeting is that we all knew it was going to be a tough budget process, but that we met with you first, and that we did not have a specific ask of the school board at that point in time. I think there were statements made that this is going to be tough and we're going to have to sharpen our pencils, but I don't think that that was an ask for them to go bring us specific cuts. I also hear, and I've heard this most years that I've sat at the table, and perhaps we need a change in our process, but frustration that by the time we get to our wrap-up meeting is when we're asking the school board for cuts or things of that nature. But this is where we are at in the process. We are asking all of our departments for cuts at this point of the process. I don't understand why we expect the schools to bring us their cuts ahead of time. I sit in this seat and I hear Councillor Judkins say we have to make some tough decisions, and I agree. This is a tough year. We have tough decisions ahead of us. I don't anticipate that any department necessarily makes this job easier for me. I want our departments to say, here is what we need. And I didn't mean that part to be toward Councillor Judkins. This is my point. Just like our department heads that report indirectly to us through the city manager, I expect those department heads and I expect the school board and the department heads under the school board to tell us what they need. And then we have to do the hard work of saying, we can't afford that. We need you to come back with a little bit less. In terms of the tax increases, I understand the rate of change is big. Like, that is a big rate of change. When I look at surrounding municipalities or other service centers, Augusta's tax rate has been too low. And I know that seems like a wild thing to say, but I did the math. I went and found 19 municipalities that either are our geographic neighbors or are service centers like ourselves, found the median home sale value, did the formula for the certified ratio, the homestead exemption, and the mill rate. Augusta is the fourth lowest of all of them. So the median home in Augusta will sell for about $286,000 and have about a $3,600 tax bill. The only ones lower than that for their median homes are Sydney, Richmond, and Gardner. Vassalboro would be higher, Waterville would be higher. All of those median homes range up to $7,000 a year. My home is the median home in the city of Augusta. I look at this every year, and I know that that is my home I am talking about, and my budget that I am talking about. And it is not comfortable to look at my budget changing by hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year. But when I sat down and did and my family is a single income family. There are 4 of us that live on that single income. Just to be extremely clear, I am not talking about something that feels very comfortable. My increase would come out between $50 and $100 a month for my family. And that to me, the cuts that we are talking about making hurt my family more than the loss of that $50 to $100. My family needs the school system. My kids are extremely well served by this school system, and I am confused why we are talking about our feelings about the school board impacting the kids, the funding of the kids. My kids are extremely well served by the library. My family is extremely well served by the library. We save hundreds, probably thousands of dollars a year in the books that we're able to take out, in the programs we're able to access, and the friends my kids have made through the library are going to be lifelong friends. Myself, I have utilized the Library of Things for many items that I have not purchased myself and have saved my household hundreds of dollars a year. And the last thing that I want to say, I think, right now is that when I think about municipal government and politics, I think about the things that we have the most control over and that impact us the most. And when I look at our city budget, I didn't do the math. I think it's 60 to 70% wages, something like that. I can't think of a better use for my tax dollar than to go to a person's salary that then turns around and gives me value and my family value in the services that they provide. So while I hear that my experience is not everyone's experience and that there are going to be people for which this increase is intolerable and a financial burden more than it is for my family, there is also a cost on the other side, and that is the services that people lose out on, and then some of those services they have to pay for as well. And I that is the perspective that I am coming with at this point in time. The cuts that we have made and the cuts that the school is making are good and prudent cuts. The school already made millions of dollars of cuts before they brought the first in the superintendent's budget.
The administration, my department heads presented up $1.5 million more than the budget I presented to the board.
Yeah, and there were 3.5 or 4 positions cut already this year.
We're at 3.5 coming out of this coming budget, if it were to pass as is.
Right.
Reducing 3.5.
So those are the things, when we're talking about fairness in a process, the school budget has already gone through the process that we're going through on the city side. The school has already cut $1.5 million, like we cut the 2 million, or talked about cutting the 2 million tonight. That's their process that they've already done. They've already cut 3.5 positions. We have, at this point, not cut a position this year. So I just, every year we end up in that spot, but I think that it's easy to forget the work that we didn't do ourselves, that the schools already did and the school board did. And when we ask them to cut further, we are doing a second level of cuts. Whereas on the city side, we have rarely gotten to that second level of cuts. And I'm not necessarily advocating that second level of cuts, but I want to be clear about what we're talking about and the work that has already been done on the school side. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to interject another thing. We've talked about process and where we are in the process. It might be a good time to review that a little bit. So this is a wrap-up session. We have a public hearing Thursday. And then we have an informational meeting, which we've allowed, you might not have seen your agendas for Thursday night yet, but we've allowed ourselves some more time for wrap-up discussions if we need them, if we don't get there tonight. And then we still have 2 readings of the appropriations resolve. So the first reading of the appropriations resolve won't be until a week from Thursday. So we've still got some time to make some more decisions before we're done. Doesn't have to be tonight. Can be tonight, doesn't have to be tonight. Councilor Judkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, how much, we funded last year a little over $18 million. And I know the required that a community does, the state has a formula that says, here's what a community should do to support its school. And it was 13-something million, and I know that you told me it's gone up $1.2 million, so a little over 14 million that the state says we should be doing.
Correct.
And we were 18-something last year. Now, if we fund at the same level as last year, how much is the state's portion that it will give you?
This coming year?
Yeah.
clear the seat so that I give you the accurate information.
3130. Mike, is that from the ED 279? So
Thank you.
I looked at it, it was 31,000, it was 31,030,000.
Just the state contribution, though, that's the total, sir. That's the total.
Right.
The state and local. The state's contribution is $17,676,677.
17.6, and then ours is like 14 what?
Your portion would be
Well, if it was a 14.
14 million.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Would be, is it 14 flat?
14,568,146.
Okay.
So the total EPS calculation, which includes the tech center, would be 32,244,823.
And then last year we did 18, and how much did we do last year? 18 what?
Well, FY '26 that we're currently in
Yep.
was 17, the state's contribution was 17,825, which is that 675,
Okay. Yep.
$665,000 more last year from the state.
And you said ours was 17?
No, your portion was 13,364.
That's what the state said we needed to, but what did we
Correct.
actually give?
The
We gave
total-
18 something.
What are those two numbers together?
This one and this one.
Yeah. 18 and change, yes.
It's change.
Can you add those two up for me?
I had 18,869, does that sound right? Needs from taxes last year?
I don't have, I'm gonna grab my book.
That's what's in here. 18,869.
That's correct.
Yeah, 18,869.
18,869 was,
Yes,
that's the taxpayer contribution last year.
So I guess the point I want to make on this, and it's been said that we don't want to balance the budget on the backs of our children, and we don't. However, the state has its formula, which we all know is a bit flawed, but they say you got to do 14,200,000. It's a community of Augusta. That's what you should pay for an educational system. And we said we got to do better. Last year it was 13 million and whatever, and we said we got to do better. We did 18,869. Okay? And we're talking at funding at the same level, 18,869, which is 30% greater than what the state says we should do. You add all that money together, and we're talking about running an Augusta school system. How many students?
a little over 2,000,
A
sir.
little over 2,000 students, but we're talking about running that system with 36 million and change. To me, that's not balancing our budget on the backs of these kids. That's a lot of money. And yet, it's up to you guys to figure out how to run that system for $36 million. But that's a lot of money. That's my point on that. And I don't want to shut the library down. I see it as a valuable resource, but I'd rather have some of it than none of it. So that's why sometimes we got to look at a little bit of reduction. Every one of their programs I hear about are phenomenal. But there are other people here in this city, not like you, that probably haven't even ever stepped a foot in that library. Their mistake, but they see the world differently. So we got to think about everybody. That's the problem. We got to think about the retired couple that's on a very fixed income that has diabetes and they're not taking all their insulin shots because they're making those kind of decisions and they're eating less, or they've given up the car because they can't afford everything that goes along with it, so they got to try to walk in Augusta because Lord knows we don't have the best transportation system to get groceries or what have you, the burden that it creates for them. So we can't just look at people that are school-age children. And the sad part of it is, that a lot of constituents, just like Councilor Michoud brought up, that right now, the perception from a large amount of people about the school system isn't quite the way you think about it. I've had a lot of comments, and there are concerns about it's degrading in the test scores. And the most recent one I had by one of my constituents is, I have 3 kids in the school, and it's I'm not going to use the descriptive word out of being polite, but it's a joke. There's a lot of people that feel this way, and we get the pressure from them if we're throwing good money after bad, because that's how this is viewed. This isn't all my stuff. I'm the messenger here with these things, but they're real.
So, going to go next to Counselor Austin. Somebody on Zoom, I don't know which one, we'll go to next, and then Courtney, and then we'll go to Counselor Lynn. So first, Counselor Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to offer a little different perspective on a couple things. We heard that people might be avoiding Augusta or going around Augusta. And I know in my neighborhood, there's been several families, a number of families that have moved in over the years recently that have come from the outskirts, come from more rural areas. Some have very young children, some are older couples. And they're coming because of the services and the value that's offered, at our tax rate. And because we do have a better school system than they've experienced elsewhere. So I just wanted to offer that perspective because I hear, stories that are different than some of the ones that were told here, and they're positive. I also want to just take a moment and step back a little bit before we drill down into the specifics of the school or the education budget and just give the board or the superintendent an opportunity to kind of level set and tell me and anybody else who happens to be watching really how we got here. So that I think it would help to have the proper perspective on what we're talking about and why, and really, if they'd like that opportunity, I certainly would love to hear it.
Yeah, I can speak more about this year's budget season. Hello, City Council. Thanks for having us again. We cut first grade teacher at Lincoln. We cut a career ed tech at the high school. We cut a science teacher. We cut 3 special education ed techs. We cut a study hall monitor. We cut laptops. We cut technology, special education services, some construction amounts, and some capital improvements. And you do have a superintendent who is sitting in front of you who is very, very cost-minded. We as a board, our responsibility is to the children because that is the responsibility to our city, because our children are going to be who takes care of us, who provides tax base when they're educated and able to work in the workforce. If they have good experiences in the Augusta schools, they're going to be more likely to stay local and give back to their own community, which is what we want. Schools are always going to cost money, but they're also, as Councillor Sienkiewicz mentioned, cost savers. Because if you don't have a child that reads and you have to read them yourself, or you have a community service like a club, but you'd otherwise have to pay to play, these are savings. We just don't see them. We take them for granted in a public service like a school that provides so much for this community in things related to even medical services, all the way to STEM, all the way to our technical center and our adult education programs that are helping immigrant people learn English like my own parents did when they immigrated here. So I just want to speak it was not about not coming back to the table. I want to reframe that narrative because I think we are, as a board, very cognizant that you guys have a really tough job. And we're also cognizant of the power here because you get to say, no, we're not going to fund that. But we our power is in advocating for the actual needs of our school buildings, our teachers, our children, most importantly. And we're advocating, the reason why we put a few positions back in is because one of our goals on the board this year is to reduce dropout. You know, we changed the class schedule. I don't know if you knew that with Coney. We're going back to block scheduling in order to make sure our test scores and classes that they take are happening alongside when they take those standardized tests. We have worked to do an alternate education program, create remote learning. You have an administration, and I'll just speak for myself here as one board member who's acting as de facto chair. You have an administration working their butts off to figure out how to improve the schools and the services every single day. And you have a staff that's doing the same because they're the ones that are in the classrooms, and they're actually the ones that feel the most impact and consequence when children aren't reading or learning or eating or have medical services. The teachers, just as much as the parents, see the impact of children who are not receiving everything that they need to. So when we as a board come with our priorities, it's really just to ensure that the school system is healthy, thriving, effective, smart at what they're doing, and able to provide an incredible amounts of service and foundation for our children in this town and in this state. And I think it's worth knowing that we're not going to ask for more than what other municipalities ask. We are ready to go back. I didn't understand where you guys were in this budget season with the reval, because again, our power sits somewhere else. It sits lower than you guys. What we are tasked with what our advocacy and our work is to ensure that the school system is well equipped and well funded so that you, all of you benefit from children that can read and work and play and be together and work together. So yes, we're ready, we're going back, we'll try to find cuts because we understand where the city is from. But this framing that we're not working with you, that we don't care, that we just want cost up is not the narrative. It's not the truth. The truth is that the children's best interests are the community's best interests. So you have a superintendent who's ready to go through everything again to show you the draining of our fund balance, to show you that the cost drivers are mostly just special education and transportation, to again suggest that we're not adding a lot much to the budget. We're just trying to reduce the cuts that he initially offered. And we'll go back and we'll talk and we'll figure it out because we do work with you, because we do care about the Augusta taxpayers. And we also sit in a certain vantage point where it's incredibly important. Yes, the retired couple matters, but what investment we make in our children is going to be twofold, threefold, fivefold, tenfold for what we are then able to provide for the future and for the current moment. So I think what's hard is that when the power comes to play, to be honest, and you guys say stuff about what we are and who we are, I just want to correct it because we don't sit with that power. And I want to just be sure that you understand that the board, and I can speak for the board, is fully ready to compromise and figure this out and make the cuts that they can. But we came without cuts the first time because we already cut. We already had these discussions, we had these presentations, and we don't think our school system could handle it and still be efficient and still grow and attract new base. I hear from my friends that they're ready to have kids in Augusta and they're ready to send their kids to school. So it's who our friends are, right? I think those framing and that narrative when they come up in the budget season feels a little bit odd that it comes up now, because if you had more crime in a city, would you deplete the police budget? Probably not, because you'd see that there's a need and a support and a real instance of which the police need help. So you'd probably hire more people. It's the same thing with the school. If you don't think we're doing well enough, your idea is to just defund us? So I really want us to, I'm sorry, I'm speaking as the board chair tonight, and I just think it's really important that you see that our budget is going to come to a compromise and we will figure it out. But I just want to ensure that we are on the same side, because we are. So those are my.
Hold on. Counselor Austin, you still have the floor.
It was all I was looking for and more.
All right. I've got a lot of hands before you guys. So unless it's directly on point to what you just heard, I want to keep going and getting everybody involved.
It is.
All right. Counselor Jenkins.
Okay. Just to be clear, you say it's framed this way. I think the perception from myself, as well as I know other council members here, was based upon watching, we're very interested in watching your budget deliberations. You do get they're recorded, right? Those conversations are
Absolutely,
on
yes,
tape?
yes. And we're advocating for the school needs. That's all we're doing
well-
in those recordings, yes. of those
That's
meetings.
not how I heard them, and I don't think it's how it was heard
And
by the
that's
rest
okay.
of us.
Yeah.
You know, when the superintendent says, hey, can we take another look at this? And there's crickets, or they say, no, we don't want to. Then what other conclusions are we supposed to draw? So I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't need a rebuttal.
Okay, thank you.
Are you on the subject? Councilor Morris Polly.
I just want to add that the impact of this budget impacts these parents. And when we impact the parents, we impact these children. Far more than a day at school, we impact a roof over their head, food on their table, clothes on their back, rent gets increased, their taxes and in any other fashion gets increased. The hours that these parents have to work increases, taking them away from these children, and parents are a very important part of this. So those are the other things that we do look at. I understand that school is important, but what they receive at home and how these parents are able to provide for these children is far more important as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Is it on this subject?
Yes, it is.
Councilor Lind.
Thank you,
I will get
Mr.
to you
Mayor.
folks.
Very passionate, and that's what I want on my school board, but I'm going to ask a few questions. I thought I was pretty clear. I can't speak for everyone else, and I think when I presented my numbers when you were here initially, I said, would you consider looking at what you were funded for last year? That was clear. Others have said it wasn't said. I'm speaking for me. I thought I was pretty straight with that. What I'm looking for is a leadership moment where we have to take into account everything. Now, by charter, we could set a dollar amount and walk away. We don't have to have the engagement. We don't have to have any consideration. We could vote a number now and be done and be out of here. So we're trying. That's where I was disappointed in the timing and the reaction. And Rita, I've got to ask you a clarifying question. When you say cut, there's context to that. What does that literally mean? What is a cut? This is my 9th budget. I've been through a couple superintendents, a couple chairs. I worked in very large numbers, very large budgets, federal and state, so I know terms matter. Positions, is it funded? Is it encumbered? What does it mean? And you drill down and you find something perhaps that you didn't perceive. So in terms of cuts, that's internal to what you're doing. When you say cuts, are you literally firing an encumbered person? Are you telling someone when those positions, they're gone?
What we would mean by a cut, sir, is it's in the FY26 budget and no longer in the FY27 budget. So how that's achieved might be through a layoff, that might be through someone resigning or retiring, or it could be a reduction in force. But what it means to me is it's in the prior year's budget, and whatever that item is no longer in the subsequent budget.
So the other thing that happens too, Rita, that we're not supposed to drill down into your budget. That's not our job, line by line. We used to do that years past. We did the first year I was here. I'm looking at trends. I'm looking at large numbers and swings in budgets. I'm looking at 20% last year, promises inferred, 2 million of our fund balance, and no change coming forward. Now, you felt the change because of your passion and the teacher, and you're seeing it firsthand, and I understand that. But I'm asking for objectivity and leadership and saying, I get it. I get it. We are affecting a police department that is down. We do hear complaints from downtown wanting more security, and we're saying, no, we're dealing with that. And I'm asking for the same on the other side. And I simply didn't see it. My ask was phrased as an impossible suggestion.
Right.
In your terms, not in mine. I don't believe it is impossible. It may be hurtful, it may be negative, but I needed to see that, and I asked for that, and now we're here and it's not there. So it's difficult. I think that's the frustration you're hearing. I'm not going to judge what goes on in the school. I'm not an educator. I don't know. Not my role. My role is sitting here to determine what's affordable. By charter, it says we'll pick an amount that's affordable. And I know that this, what we're looking at for even 16% is not affordable for the people in this city. You know, as Councilor Lilly just said, we just went through a quick drill and cut 2 million. That's where we got to go, millions. We're moving big rocks, not 1,000. We need fundamental change in the expenditures and in the revenue long term. But we got to get through the reval. This has got to be a year we buckle in and we get through it, and we can. But it is a tough thing. We've got to be objective, and that's what I was looking for. I was very disappointed when nothing happened in that budget meeting. And I've got to ask a clarifying question, too. When you say de facto chair, can you explain what that meant?
Just Martha Witham can't attend today, so I can
Okay.
work because I'm
All
the
right.
most senior school board member after
I
her.
just didn't know something happened. When you said that, worst of mine, worst thoughts came to mind. So at any rate, it wasn't too early for cuts. I don't think it's an impossible suggestion. You can see what's going on here. You know, this is probably one of the toughest budgets I've had, and I've been doing governmental budgeting since 1992. This is a rough one. We'll get through it, but it's going to hurt. And so I'm going to ask that passion you just exhibited, maybe take a step back and try to be objective and see everything to include what we're facing and understand the gravity of those meetings, what you're looking at. I understand it, but both of us are. So I'm just asking for looking at what you funded last year, start there and see where you can go. Thank you.
Hang on. I'm going to go to our Zoom participants. I don't know where they're going to go with this, whether they have questions or comments for you folks or moving in another direction. Okay, but hang in there. Okay. Councilor Gary Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two quick questions. The first question is, can you tell me the difference? I'm not sure who would have the answer to this, but tell me the difference between how much you're asking for and how much was funded last year?
I think it's about a 3 million increase
Three-
from last year.
The total increase of the budget is up, as is, 3.7 million or 9.2%. Remember to bring my glasses. The local contribution is up 3.2 million
3.2 million from local.
for the local share, as is. But I want you to recall that I just rattled off $1 million worth of savings when I first got up here tonight. So
So
with the-
2.2.
if the board approves that reduction, those changes on Wednesday, we would be at $1 million less than this.
It sounds like I would highly advise the board to approve that $1 million worth of reduction. Okay, so that was my first question. So I'm going to move forward with the assumption that we're in the $2.2 million range. My second question is, this is a process question. The council's role is to set the total number. Hypothetically, what happens if the school board refuses? Is that even possible?
No, we set the appropriation resolve that you vote on, and the number that you allot is what's voted on.
Okay, so there's no refusing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilor Michu, while I'm looking up there, anything you want to weigh in at this point?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Passion. I'm hearing passion, but passion is personal. And we need to be less personal and more to the point. And Councilor Austin, my demographic area in Ward 3 may be just a little bit different than yours, so your perception of things may be just a little different than mine, and I respect and appreciate that. But 70% of taxpayers in Augusta don't have a horse in that school race. And again, we have to look at everything. And I am certainly not somebody that wants to put down the schools. Like de facto Chairman Pello said, those students that they are educating are the future firemen, future policemen, future educators, hopefully in the city of Augusta. And we need to provide them with the best education possible. But again, we are at a point now where we need to make some tough decisions. And if we don't make them this year, they're going to be worse next year, and they still might be worse next year. We do not know what's going to go on. So again, I am one that looks at a budget as close to zero as we can get, because it's important. It's important this year. And I don't want to elevate taxes again next year because we got to zero this year because of a reval, but we still have to live within our means. We need a fire department, we need a police department, we need public works, we need libraries, and we need schools. So again, it's going to be something that's very tough to do. And again, I have watched most every school board meeting and committee meetings and things. And like Councilor Judkin said, the last finance committee meeting, the board was very stalwart that they had no plans to go back to the drawing board. So again, they had a couple of weeks to look at some numbers, and now that window of opportunity is beginning to close in on them. So I'm hoping that everybody understands that at least I am hearing from a majority of people that big decisions are going to have to be made on the school side and the municipal side. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Haley? That's Gary Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. City Manager Mills, could you also tell me how much the city's ask from taxes has increased from last year to this year minus what we've already subtracted from the request?
From last year to this year, we've gone from 19.4 million to 24.2 million.
She asked with the reduction, Jared.
Minus the reductions.
Oh, the reductions tonight?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Real quick.
So 19 to 24, that's 6.
So, yeah, 19.4 to 22.2. You're talking needs from taxes, correct? Or are you talking about expenditure increases?
Needs from taxes.
19,405,352 in 26, and with the reductions, 22,292,742 for this year.
22.3. Fair?
Yeah.
So 2.9? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So let's take a deep breath, okay? One of the things we are striving for tonight is to try to find out and give both the city manager and the school superintendent and the respective bodies some guidelines, some parameters where we want to go. We've talked a little bit about the scale of things. I'm wondering whether now is a good time to start talking about goals, where we want to end up, what we're going to be asking of the manager and the superintendent, or you still want to air some thoughts? Councilor Lynn.
So to set one number is difficult. I would like to see models, like I mentioned earlier, a 10% increase, a 5% increase, a 3% increase, what that impact looks like, so we can tell the gravity of what we're looking at and the impact of what we're looking at. And that way I can see, you could even go to 15 if you want to, but at least we have tiers of seeing how deep we go, how much pain's going to be felt, how much bleeding's going to go on as we keep going down lower and lower. Because without that visual in front of us, it's very difficult to say, here's a number, here's a number, here's a number, without knowing the real impact in terms of literally people, careers in our city and our school. So I'd like to see some models in front of us with what's happening. And the real deal, not vacant positions, but where we're at and the real impact in terms of people, programs in our city.
Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, I mean, if you're speaking from the city side, what I've provided you is the overall, all of these numbers.
Right.
2.5 million, okay? Get you to, that right down around that 16.
But that's just the city side. So if you
Correct.
combine it with the school side,
Yeah,
you may
so
see.
if you're talking, so is that what you'd like to see for models, is whatever's the city, the school, and what that overall is?
If Eric Lynn's running the world, you two chief executives would get together and develop these models and come back to us with this.
We can certainly do that. I mean, they're models of, 5 million overall cuts get you to 8%.
Right.
But
how does that translate in impact?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can give you positions and all
Our
of those.
recommendations to keep the city going and the school going.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're paying you to set something in front of us that we can at least move on and decide on. That's what I would like to see.
We can do
Again, I
that.
want to speak for everyone else, but I'd like to at least start with that.
Councilor Judkins.
Mr. Mayor, where's your goal? When this all started, you were pretty clear on wanting flat funding on the budget so that the folks at home only had the revaluation to deal with, so that it was clear to them. If you changed your goal in your mind.
I don't see how we could do a zero. I mean, when we negotiate all our employment contracts, we are building in an increase in our budget knowingly, in these three-year contracts. So we can't sit here and profess to say that we're not, we can't anticipate an increase just because wages.
I would have to find something else to cut.
Like anybody who runs a business, like you run your home, we're facing some of those pressures in terms of utilities, water, energy, things like that.
Yeah.
It was my fervent hope that we would have a zero increase in our budget because very worried about not the impact of the revaluation, because the purpose of the revaluation is just to bring equity in our taxes. Some people are paying less than they should have been over these many years, and some people are paying closer to market value and subsidizing it. But, so it was my hope that people would be able to see the impact of that apart from the impact of the taxes. I don't see that happening as I would wish it would. But at the same time, when we're talking about 21%, 16%, where we've gotten to now, it's just too much to talk. It's too much to stomach. I asked the manager today, is 5% realistic? And I think he gave me what he felt his honest answer was, and it was not. That's just his opinion. He'll do what he's directed to do. But I don't think we can get by without an increase, but where we are now is much too high, I think, personally.
Well, I appreciate your candor on that. You're right. When we build in the raises, there's not much we can do. We'd have to find somewhere else to cut something to cover that. And we also can't control the county budget. And they've now hit us 2 years in a row with a pretty significant increases. That's not what they used to do. They were much more balanced. But we've got to absorb that as well. So I agree. I think zero funding is as improbable as 21% is improbable. So I guess we just got to find that sweet spot. So.
Anyone? Councilor Lynn?
To clarify, the reason that I'm asking for these models, I think it would be easier for me to answer questions from my constituents too. If they ask me, why are you looking at 10 or 5, I can say, do you want to eliminate your police department? Do you want to eliminate your fire department? We've got to have a sense of impact on both the school side and the city side. So I don't, we're at, what, 16 now? Let's go 15, 10, 5, and 3, something like that. Just 4 models in front of us, impact, and we could start to work it.
No, I think we could have that. I mean, I've already got those numbers, and I'm sure Mike does too, so we could put something together for you to have for Thursday night.
May I just?
Please, go ahead, Mr.
It
Superintendent.
would be typically, if I were going to have any kind of impact study done, and we were going to go live with, we're going to cut the reintegration specialist counselor position at the high school. We usually like to give them the respectful courtesy to inform them that we're going to be discussing the potential elimination of their position. So for me, you won't have those details, Mr. Lynn. You'd have
I appreciate that, Mike. I'm sure you could phrase it in a way.
ex-staff members.
Right.
Okay.
You're a
But you won't-
professional, we're professionals.
I
I'm sure
just
you
wanted
could
to-
phrase it.
Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
can do
Thank
that.
you for that, though.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you won't have that level of detail from me.
No.
Yep,
Thank you.
But for programs at risk,
right.
you could say this program's at risk.
Yes, we would talk about that.
Same for the city manager,
Exactly, yep.
because I'm looking at
In a
risk.
number of positions.
We've got to do a risk analysis here. This is all about risk. This is all about-
We've done that. I mean,
Right.
I can talk globally about that. So I don't know how late you want to go tonight, but I could talk a little bit about some of those impacts.
No,
If you want.
we need to do it collectively, and
Yes, sir.
Do I have someone on Zoom? Councilor Gary Allen or Councilor Michu?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very supportive of the idea of having the scenarios laid out in front of us. So I appreciate that, and thank you for the suggestion, Councilor Lind. I think I've heard a lot of tonight about the school board being at flat funding, and I am willing to support that as long as the city also comes in at flat funding. I think if we're going to ask for the school board to make drastic cuts, that we're also going to be looking at drastic cuts at the city level. And in that hypothetical scenario, that would put my number at $5.1 million in cuts across both sides of the city.
In addition to what we've identified
Yep.
tonight? So we've
Flat funding for
identified-
both sides of the organization.
So we've identified between the two bodies, probably 3 million of cuts tonight. So you're talking about 5 million on top of that?
Yeah, I'm talking about if there's a majority of the council that is asking for flat funding of the school, I would also be requesting flat funding of the city, which would be an additional $2.2 million from the school board and $2.9 million from the city of Augusta, for a total of $5.1 million.
Apart from that proviso, do you have an opinion about where you would like to be personally?
I'd like to see the scenarios.
Okay. Councilor Michu?
I will say I personally cannot afford the tax increase that we're facing right now, and I don't think many of our citizens can either.
Councilor Michu?
Thank you. I would concur with Councilor Lind. I would like to see 10%, I don't even want to see that because that's not even in my wheelhouse. I would see 5% and 2.5% and see what that looks like and go from there. I truly understand that we have a lot of people that are union workers, both on the school and the municipal side, and contractually, they are going to get paid, and obviously, that will impact things. I would like to see what, again, a small budget increase and the impact of it, because we're going to be right back here again next year, and I know it, and I'm not sure where the bleeding ends. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Thanks. So, got a couple of three people at least who want to see some scenarios set out.
Helpful.
Anybody willing to stake out a position tonight, or want to wait and see what our leaders come back with? Councilor Judkins?
I don't want to put the city manager on the spot, but when you had the conversation, and you do not have to answer if you do not want to, but when the mayor said, what's your idea? And he floated a number, were you higher or lower than that as what it needs to come in at?
Talking about when he asked about a 5%?
Yeah.
Well, getting down to 5%, I mean, the scenario you have, we have at least tonight is what, a $5 million increase would look like, or decrease would look like, on both the city and school side, at least from the city side, I can speak of is in front of you. There's a $2.5 million decrease. That's scenario. That's one of the scenarios you're asking for us, and that's everything that's included here. And if the school were to cut 2.5 million, that'd be 5 million. And that would get us to 8%. So anything more than that is all positions. So I would go down the board and figure out how to get to, looking at the least impactful positions. And that's what I would add to these scenarios to get to, 5%, 3%, 2.5% is just people.
So how much over that 5 million reduction what does 8% equate to? How much more?
Where if you cut 5 million from the budget, we would get to 8%.
Okay, but what is that 8%? How much if we brought that 8% to zero? What would be another?
Real quick, so I don't speak.
Would that be another 5?
Let's see.
Be another 3.5 million beyond that?
Yeah, I'll try 8 million total. Well, 8 million total, 4 million on each side gets us to 1.1. So I would say to get to 5, where $6 million gets you to 5.9, so somewhere between 6 and 7 million total will get you to the 5.
Thank you.
Councilor Lind?
Can you just recap between the school and what we've cut and where we sit right now, if we were to take these cuts right now with the tax increase? Because this number's flying. I just want to make sure we all know that where we're at right now with what's been offered, and where we're sitting right today.
Well, so what you've talked about tonight isn't all in. I've put
If you're not
green.
prepared, it's fine. I mean,
Well, I can talk anecdotally. You've all agreed upon, we've got the 251,000 already. You've all agreed on 850,000 for TIF increases, the minor increases in the budget lines, another 228,000. You've all agreed on, and another 400,000 for delayed hiring. Gets us right around 1.5. You've kind of all green lighted tonight. There's obviously much more than that available in this spreadsheet. There's another $1 million that I didn't hear a consensus on when the mayor went through that.
The investment income transfer.
Oh, yeah, and that includes that as well. I added that up earlier as well. So we're at 1.5, they're at $1 million, that's 2.5, where we're at tonight.
That puts us percentage-wise,
Puts us right at 16, 16%, yep. Mill rate, or excuse me, 16% increase over needs from taxes. Thank you. Yep.
Council Mishu.
Thank you very much. I'm going to put it in another perspective. In the last 4 years, we've experienced 18.8% increases in our taxes. And an 8% increase would take it to 25% in 5 years. So I know another councilor mentioned that compared to a lot of other municipalities, we're pretty low, but goodness gracious, 25% in 5 years is really, it just puts a heavy, heavy burden on everybody that lives and pays property taxes in Augusta. So, you know, we'll bend a little bit. I'll be perfectly transparent with everybody. I voted the budget down the last 4 years for different reasons, but I understand the cost of everything is going up. It's not going down, but we have to live within our means. And, you know, for the taxpayer to absorb 25% increase over 5 years is almost unimaginable. So I'm asking the city manager and the superintendent of schools to do the very best that they can to the point where it hurts to get that down. I would probably entertain 2 or 3%, but anything more than that would fall me off the table again. So that's where I'm at after listening to everything this evening. Thank you.
Council Morris Polly.
Yes, I just have a couple of follow-up questions. I'm always one who's trying to look at where we can increase revenue from other sources. And one of the things, Superintendent Tracy, you sent out was in regards to my question about billing main care services. And I know last year during the budget, I was pretty persistent about asking, what do you need? What do you need in order to do this? And what I got back was we need space. And this year, when I asked again, it now has an estimated startup cost of $1.4 million, which sounds to me like more than just space. So, you know, in reading through this, it does look like there are some projected revenues of about $500,000 a year with this program in place. Is that projected revenue every single year going forward? How did you come up with that type of a projected revenue?
So the assistant superintendent put together most of those numbers. She went back with your question and put together a whole booklet of information, and I kind of summarized it down instead of sending the whole booklet. But basically, she looked at what we had now, the certifications and training that our current staff would need, the space, any additional equipment, learning supplies, that kind of thing, to get to the $1.4 million. And then we projected out what we hoped we would make in revenue from that program based on kind of what we're seeing being billed to our private sources right now, because right now those behavioral services are being billed from private sources. So we kind of looked at what we're doing for private sources, what we might be able to bring in-house, and that's where some of those revenue projections came from.
So where you have private individuals doing a Section 65 and 28 program in the school, what space are they using right now to do that program?
Existing classrooms. Right, so I don't want to interpret what you're asking. If we have out-of-district placement students, about 20, the notion would be we would try to get those folks in a least restrictive environment, as you know, and bring them back into the mainstream classroom. The reason those students are out of district is because they can't be educated in our current programs. So what we would need to start up a more intensive day treatment program is going to incur a lot more money as an upfront startup cost, as well as the training, the staffing, and the space. So I don't think the answers we've given you have changed. We've added to answers because as we've looked into it, we found out more and more of the difficulty of starting that. Now, that hasn't stopped us from working with regional partners to try to do it, which we continue to do, and I haven't, excuse me, let my foot off the gas with some of our regional superintendents. But that's why, to answer your question directly, we haven't been able to do that this year or in the near future.
So what if it wasn't to bring individuals back into district, but to simply provide the service to the children that need it, that are currently in that classroom and in those school systems, and more that are coming, especially with a dropout rate of 25%? I would think that a Section 65 program would be very beneficial, both financially and to the students.
Getting it started up front will be the concern, because you're not going to have a perfect scenario where you're going to start up a new program and bring all 20 kids back next year. That won't happen. So you'd have to establish a program and begin to work those students back as possible. And then any new students that come in would participate in that program. There are programs in other school districts, in public school systems,
Multiple.
that are models for that.
Yeah.
Skowhegan has one, most closest to us. But again, there have been multiple barriers that we've tried to explain as for reasons why we haven't been able to start that up. So the kids that we've been able to bring back, we brought 3 students back into district this year. I've told you it didn't go without staff injury, but we've done that. So to the extent feasible, we're doing what you've asked us to do.
Right. What I'm saying is I'm not asking you to bring children back who are already in out-of-district placement. I'm asking about providing services, not through a contractual individual, but through the actual school system for the kids that are currently receiving the services right there in the school system.
You mean sending our staff that we might have trained at Lincoln to, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
I think you are,
Okay.
yes. So currently you have a contracted individual coming into the school, providing 65 and 28 programs to kids that are in the school in an existing classroom. What would it look like where you didn't have a contractual individual who was receiving that revenue, but instead using staff that the Augusta school system has to provide that on that per diem basis right there in the school, replacing essentially a contracted service with an individual who is employed by the Augusta school system?
Okay, now I understand what you mean. We do that to the extent possible. We have our own employees. If you're speaking specifically about OT, PT, speech.
Nope, I'm speaking specifically about
Psychological.
65 and 28.
Okay, you got to give me, what would be, give me a title of behavioral health?
Behavioral health,
Yeah,
yes.
so we have had to move Ed Tech 2s to Ed Tech 3s, which cost more money to be able to provide that training. And we've just done that this year. And we are in the process of providing that training.
That was done last year.
Yeah, it was just this past year.
The
that
year
we moved.
before that, I'm sorry, the year before.
No, we
No? Okay.
just moved
All right.
Ed Tech 2s to Ed Tech 3s this FY '26.
So that is the plan?
We're working on it, and
Okay.
we have a couple of scenarios where we've been working with other school systems even to bring other students in where feasible. We're working on that as we speak.
Do you
So-
know how many schools have these programs that they're providing in their school on their own versus contracting?
Not off the top of my head. I know that we have, it depends on the particular service that you're talking about. To the extent feasible, we hire employees first. We have that agreement with our CBA, with the Teachers Association. We must hire employees first, and then when we leave the posting running, and if we can't find a behavioral health professional, a psychologist, then we have to outsource that, because as you know, we have to meet IEPs. So then we have to outsource that to a contracted service provider. So may I? Yeah.
Continue.
I don't think anybody's trying to be insulting. I just want to say that out loud, okay? I don't think anybody specifically is trying to be insulting. I just would request, Mr. Mayor, that when we're talking about the school department, we're talking about what we need to fund it, as opposed to, it's probably easier to cut the budget when I make statements about the school department that might be negative. Because I think if asked, we could talk about the tech center kids who cooked for you last week, and we have 9 kids going to Skills USA. I've got a kid on our school board that's going to Princeton next year. Like, I can provide bright spots for you, okay? So I would request that we would talk about what it takes. And I want, you went through talking tonight about $2 million, and I'll be emphatic. We've done that exercise, Mr. Lynn. You've talked about that. We've gone through that process. So where you're talking about adding, tweaking revenues and laying off people and what you went through, your $2 million process tonight, we've done that last month. When we get to cutting, as you're asking us to, and we'll do what you tell us to do, we're getting into, as you'll see in those models, we're getting into real people, real positions, and real programs for kids. And so, and we'll put that in black and white so you can see it, and then you'll just have to make your decisions from there. And forgive me for being passionate, but I love Augusta. That's why I worked my whole career to come back here to be your superintendent, okay? I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud of our school system, as you are. But I don't think painting it in a negative light to bring the budget in lower is the way to do business tonight. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit, I'll take the deep breath that you said to take, sir. That's all I need to say.
Can I respond to that? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be in a negative light. I'm just trying to look at other ways that we can support our budget and support our school. You know, and I think that this is something that, I think we continue to work on, but looking at other revenue streams that support our kids and support our budget, I don't think is meaning to be negative in any way. And I think that from, a city side as well, we need to support our economic development. We need to support, how do we increase individuals coming into Augusta to do water sports and to do fly fishing and to go to Bicentennial Park. I think that's a whole nother piece to this budget. Isn't just how do we cut, but how do we increase the exposure of Augusta and all the things that we have to offer, because we have a lot to offer. And so oftentimes when we talk about budgets, we talk about cutting and we talk about taxes, but I really also want to talk about economic development, advertising our city, looking at bringing more people in. Where can we charge individuals coming in from other areas to look at what we have here and to be able to participate in what we have here? And so that goes along with the school and being able to offer more to our kids, and then also to our city and being able to draw in more individuals and see the things that we do have here, because we do have a lot, and a lot of it's very hidden, and we need to advertise it. We need to show it off. We need to build upon it, and that brings in revenue streams, which helps support all of the businesses, including the city's public works and the school system and our economic development and all of that. So that's where I was going with that.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I don't want you to, I don't want anyone to think that we're not exhausting ourselves looking for those specific revenue sources and grants, et cetera, because we are. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
And I think I'll just continue to ask and see where we're at and what you need in order to do that, because I think that that is an important thing with the population that we are helping here in Augusta. And I know that because I do it every single day. And this population needs support and they need help. And they need us to be able to provide that in a professional fashion. And this program is one that would do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Sienkiewicz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have talked quite a bit tonight about what the history of tax increases in Augusta has been, where people might want to be, whether it's Augusta or other locations. And I want to emphasize that we are functioning within a broader context, that two things can be true at once. It can be a significant rate of change for the people who are living in Augusta, and it can be that we are managing it as well as possible within that context. Councillor Michu brought up the cumulative increases over time. Municipalities around us had a 20% increase in 1 year. So there are real things happening to individuals in the city of Augusta, and I don't disagree with any of my fellow councilors that those are real concerns and things we need to keep in mind as we're making these decisions. And we are experiencing the same context as many other municipalities. I don't know if hardly any throughout the state don't have some sort of similar experience over these last few years. And weighing the cuts to service that may attract people to our city when there are other cities nearby that have similar tax rates with those services is something to consider as well. I don't know how many people choose our direct neighbors that are more rural. I think the likelihood is that those are different populations. So when I look at like a Vassalboro, a Sydney, a Chelsea, I don't know that the populations choosing those locations want the services of the city of Augusta. Maybe some of them do. But those lower tax rates around us reflect, in large part, lower services as well. But when you look at the geographically similar municipalities, Augusta is so difficult because we are the only real service center in this geographic area. But when you look at Gardner, when you look at Waterville, their tax rates are either the same or higher than ours. Waterville is probably our best example in that they have many of the services that we do. Their tax rate is higher and they have more taxable property than we do. Gardner is part of an RSU. It has smaller services, all these things. Their tax rate is for the median house, which is almost the exact same value at this point in time to the city of Augusta's median home. Their tax rate is $20 less than ours a year. So I say all of that to say that I think our staff, both on the school and city side, have done a good job managing a very difficult context, that our services are quite extensive for the level of suppression that we have, given our low taxable land, trying to hold in mind what our population can bear. And if we continue to cut from the services without pretty drastic decreases to our tax rate, which I think would cut even further from the services than we're willing to bear, we may be doing ourselves more harm than good if our goal is to attract people to the city of Augusta. Thank you.
Councillor Lilly?
Thank you. I think something that we need to keep in mind specifically with this budget, and I know that Councillor Lind has touched on it a little bit, this is almost, for most residential homes, this is a double-edged sword this year. We have the reevaluation, which does not increase taxes, it distributes them differently. So some people will feel that no matter what, along with, at this point, it looks like a 16% at the moment, maybe lower, but a 16%, we will see a double increase. And that's really what worries me this particular year. Now, this is my first time during the budget process. This particular year, it's almost like a pause of just letting things settle. We see that with many other businesses, not that the city is run like a business, not that the schools are run like the business. I don't really want them to be run like a business because we're not selling something necessarily. We're giving something back. But this year particularly, we do have the reevaluation, which does push that and distributes the tax basis differently. So you will see some people, and that would be people that will probably get hit the hardest, will be single homes, low income, our elderly population. Not only will they see an increase in the taxes, they will see the distribution of the tax burden as well. So that's, I just want to, as we continue this conversation, which I know has gone up and down a little bit tonight, but we still need to continue to talk together and work through it. But that is particularly my concern. This budget season is a double-edged sword for a good amount of our people that have probably the lowest amount of income to spare. So that would be what I just want to continue to, I will be considering that as we continue for the rest of us as well. I'd recommend that to us and to the school board as well. I appreciate you guys coming back tonight. I don't want you to go back, and I don't necessarily want you to feel that I don't appreciate what you guys do. I do not have kids in the school program, but I do understand the value of it. My mom was a school teacher for 30 years. My dad still works at a school as a janitor. He probably wouldn't like that I called him that, but he does that. So I appreciate the work that you guys do. I understand how difficult it is. We're also, as Councilor Lynn says, we're having a difficult time specifically tonight and as we go forward. So by no means do I hope you guys don't walk away defeated necessarily, but we want to partner. That's what we're talking about. And it sounds like we're getting to that point. I wish it would have been a little sooner, and maybe that wasn't made as clear as I would have liked or as we would have liked, but looking forward to continually working on that. Specifically, it sounds like the city manager and the superintendent. So let's work together. This is a very difficult year with the distribution of the tax, along with looks like an increase or some sort of increase. That's all that I want to say for tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Lind.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mike, you kind of called me out there. I've got to address that. So, understand where I'm coming from in process steps. I'm confident in saying that the city manager's done the same thing you've done. Cuts come, and then all the departments come, you came. I'm not inferring that neither the school board nor you have done cuts or trimmed the budget or worked really hard. I want to make that very clear. If that was the inference that came across, not my intention at all. What I talked about was that last step, that board meeting, the finance board map. I thought we were clear in saying, please take a look at it, start to work it. It's getting late in the schedule, and good decisions aren't made when your back's against the wall. That's what I meant when I said it was disappointing. You had an opportunity that night to really work on it. That was, 2 weeks ago, Rita, I think? So 2 weeks have passed. That's all I meant. That was disappointing. That was an opportunity to really start to drill down, at least come up with some options, some planning, some thought, some discussion. Didn't happen. I'm not inferring you didn't do your job. I'm not inferring you didn't do cuts or the hard work or the gut-wrenching work. Please don't take that way at all. And I, for one, don't want to drill down into line by line by line. That's not, I don't feel my role at this point for either the city manager or the superintendent or the school board at all. So just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think we've got some information.
See you at 8 a.m.
That's right. We can come back and put some models together as I indicated. We can send them out by email before and then have hard copies for you all at the meeting. It sounds like that's the follow-up, right? That's what we're looking for at this point.
Yeah, we'll have the public hearing Thursday. And if there's anything you have to share at the top of the public hearing,
Certainly.
we'll do that.
Yep.
And then we'll have more wrap-up discussion after we go through the course of our informational meeting on Thursday. I assume no one is content with 16%. Is that right? Good. So I just want to say to the superintendent and the school board, and I've said this before, I'll probably say it again before I'm done. So I've been where you guys are, okay? Many years on the school board, families were educators. I understand your role in bringing forward a budget which you think is appropriate and necessary to run the school system. I understand that, I really do. And I know, and having sitting on this side of things now, I also understand that we have a separate and distinct role in thinking even more broadly about the city as a whole and all the departments and the impact. And I appreciate the frustration because I experienced it on the school board when you don't have the same control over the budget that we do. And so you have to advocate and live with it. I understand that. But I hope you understand that this is the most difficult budget. I've been around a long time. I think this is the most difficult budget that I've experienced for reasons we all know, we've all talked about. And, you know, it wears on me. I'm sure it wears on these folks who have to cast a vote. So no offense is intended. I hope there's none taken. And I do acknowledge and I appreciate the fact that through the city manager and tonight, again, that you've indicated your willingness to work with us to come to an acceptable solution. With that, anyone else? All right. Thank you for your participation tonight, and we'll see everybody in 2 days, Thursday. So we'll have a special meeting. We have a special meeting, right?
Yes, special business meeting. Yep.
Special business meeting followed by informational
Yes,
meeting.
correct.
And then more wrap-up discussion.
We aren't aware.
All right, thank you, everyone.